Welcome to The Kid is in School, where we talk about whatever we want since our kid is not here to interrupt us. But we don't have a lot of time before the bell rings, so let's get right into it. I have had the worst luck with Halloween costumes. And you know this.
You've had some bad ones over the years.
And I don't think...
Bad's the wrong word. Let me kind of walk that term back. You've had costumes that don't work for a general public.
This is so amusing to you, and it infuriates me, and that's why I think it's so funny to you. I come up with a conceptual costume, and then nobody gets it, and so I get overlooked, or I get people like looking towards me and clearly being confused, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, well, in comedy there's we use this term too smart for the room sometimes. I think sometimes your costumes are just too smart for the room.
Thank you, that's very kind of you to say.
The one that sticks out, by the way, is the Apple iPad.
No, you ruined it. I was going to tell you, but yes, okay. I was okay. No. You didn't ruin it, but I could have told you that I was an Apple iPad. I'm surprised you even remember what it was. I was going to tell you my choice of costume was a red polo shirt and did the hat have a stem on it? I had a red bucket hat and I put a brown stem on top with a leaf that I made out of paper. And then I put a maxi pad over my eye. Yeah. And I was supposed to be an Apple iPad.
Which may be, and I might be wrong here, you don't know how off-putting it is to see a maxi pad on someone's face. What are we looking at here?
Even on Instagram, when you post it as a photo and people have time to think it over, it's just it's even worse. It's no response, no engagement. Okay.
Your costumes are like those word type of playthings in the back of a kid's magazine.
Yeah, you have to read it to understand the joke, everybody.
Yeah.
No, one other failed costume for me was I was a member of Kill Bill. I don't even know movie characters' names well enough, but I was Daryl Hannah's character. So I had a long blonde wig and an eye patch, and I wore all black. I don't know what the pull was to be her, but I wasn't Uma Thurman. I wasn't Lucy Liu. And so people thought I was Halle Berry and Storm.
With an eye patch.
Are you Pirate Halle Berry in an X-Men franchise? But anyway.
Pirate Storm.
But the funny thing is that year, weren't you a mad scientist? And people kept going, mad scientist, hilarious, when they saw you out.
Well, my goal with it usually is to be as cheap as possible. So any costumes we have. Yeah, but the problem is you go to thoughtful, and I am performing for the general dumb audience. I'm going broad. I'm going hacky.
Right, you're going instant. You want them to get it the second they see you. And so I feel like there was
traditional.
One more. I have had some pretty random ones. One year, you and I both were Hollywood Squares.
Yes.
You were Dom DeLuise, I believe.
I was.
And did we paint his name at the bottom so people could tell?
I think we did do that.
And then I was Dionne Warwick.
Yeah.
And so the highlight of that night was we were in a parade in Brooklyn where this is a very mild parade. You get to walk the streets. And Steve Buscemi, we both noticed he was alongside watching. I believe he's a Brooklyn resident. And he read our cardboard boxes with the names, and he seemed to like it. I think he nodded. Did he raise his eyes and nod?
Yeah, maybe a thumbs up. I don't remember exactly.
But you and I were riding very high that night. It was a long time ago. I think we were in our 20s. We were so stoked.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was one of those that was yes, Stu Buscemi liked our costumes. Now, maybe that's the best of my style of costume and your style of costume combined. It was interesting. It was unique. There was some more conceptual elements to it.
Slightly obscure. You have to have known Hollywood Squares and appreciate these people in their prime celebrity time. Right. We could have picked you could have been, who could you have been? Rip Taylor, right? Is that his name? Yeah. You could have thrown confetti. I could have been Whoopi Goldberg.
What's the voice of Templeton the Rat?
That is, it's not Charles Nelson Riley, but it's the other guy. It's, hello, Charlotte. You do it. You do it better.
Hello, Charlotte. Hello, Charlotte. I'm just a rat.
What is that man's name?
Paul Lynde.
Paul Lynde. Well done. So, which you've done in character as a sketch character before.
Yeah, probably around that time too.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, that and you know what? It harkens back to my youth, my childhood, where, like you said, we wanted to make costumes from scratch because you could. For one, it's fun to just put things together that you have at home. And two, it saves money. I know my mom was not about to go to some kind of Party City store.
She instilled this in you. Just do this cheap costume. It's really creative. Just be a creative costume maker.
Remember, your favorite costumes as a kid were made of cheap materials, even if you bought them. So it's like, why would we spend money on plastic smock? You know what I mean? Representing whomever.
Yeah, I remember one of mine was... I can't remember what this cartoon was called, but it was, everything in the late 80s and early 90s was cartoon and toy line were in line. In fact, the cartoons were basically a commercial for the toys. And so these guys were maybe called Centurions, and there's one called Ace, and he was the one that could fly. Okay. He was blue. Probably, blue is my favorite color, so it's probably why I picked him. But the toy was kind of cool. Like, they look like G.I. Joes, the bigger G.I. Joes from like the 60s. Oh. But they were molded plastic, and they had holes along their legs and arms that you could snap in attachments like wings or guns and things like that, and it had a helmet and really an intricate toy.
Or you could pretend they got shot up.
Yes, you could.
Lot of holes in this.
What happened to Ace? How he got shot down by a machine gun. So that's those intricate toys, intricate cartoon, and the costume was just the plastic smock with a plastic face that you put onto your face.
Nightmare.
Yeah, and there's nothing that snaps on. I don't hold a gun. I don't have wings. I'm basically just the bare toy.
Right.
Without any of the cool stuff that made it cool.
So you're a parent now. You do not want to spend extra money on something. They inflate the prices of costumes and knowing that it's cheap. Now, I think today's costumes are a little bit more fun, but before I go down that road, I will say, I wanted to tell you, when I was a kid, my first conceptual concept that I was so proud of it wasn't even conceptual. It was just, I was a dead TV announcer. So I thought TV announcer was a given. Everybody knows that to introduce, first of all, I don't even know if we had them since the 40s. It was like the Don Pardo of SNL, so I would be like, hello, everybody. And I wore a big bow tie. The whole idea originated from a bow tie. And I think I was mirroring it off of Garfield and Friends, like their version of television hosts. And I put dark makeup under my eyes to be dead. And I put a cardboard box around my head to be the television. I decorated it with, turns.
Little knobs.
Knobs, even though we didn't even have a TV with knobs at that point. Why do we always default to like the most archaic version of technology? And one of the first houses that we hit, it was a man that answered the door, and he opened the door, and I could see there were adults having dinner in the background. His dining room was visible from the front door, and people are laughing, and you see people drinking wine, and he seemed drunk to me as a kid, and he goes, "Who are you supposed to be? Boxhead?"
Boxhead.
And the room looked over at me and then roared with laughter in my memory, and I was just like, no, I'm a dead TV announcer. He didn't find me adorable or precocious. Oh. He was just like, okay, if you say so. I was deflated that Halloween.
And he just poured a ladle of gravy into your bucket, candy bucket.
Whatever they were eating that night. Roasted chicken. Here you go, little one.
Yeah, well, see, that's the problem. Like, that's why I was saying, like, the combination of our two things was we wrote out the name Dom DeLuise. I think your default mode is you don't write out Dom DeLuise. They just know you're Dom DeLuise. Yes. And it's like with no possible contextual clues and understanding where your thought process is. You just see this guy with a beret holding a box around his face and you go, what is that? Like, but if it says Dom DeLuise, on top it says Hollywood Squares, right. You now can... You're putting it together. So like with your thing, you'd have to have written dead, zombie TV announcer or TV anchor, and people go, oh, oh, I now see what you're doing.
Yes. Even you enhancing it with the word zombie makes it so much more Halloween than just dead.
Just dead.
Is he dead inside of a box?
Are they reporting on his death?
I'm so mad about that idea. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for indulging me on that walk down memory lane. And I hope this year or next year I can be a little bit more, what do you call it? Tone it down? I don't know what you call it. What do I need to do to change the way I want to do a costume versus the way I want to be received?
You have to go as direct to the people as possible, and which is funny because like our daughter last year went your direction, which is I want to be a zombie clown.
Yeah, she mixed two random things. She was like a clown, but also
saying I want to be a zombie clown. You're like, okay, and it's like a zombie mummy clown. Was there a mummy involved?
Yes, you're right. She was a mummy clown.
Yeah, and
then I gave her the zombie eyes.
Yeah, so she was a mummy clown. And it's not even a zombie. And so we took a...
Look how I forced my dark eye circles.
I know, you're like, you need to be dead too. Because mummies are dead. And so that's the thing, is that, we just took a clown outfit and then wrapped her in toilet paper. And people had no clue what's going on.
But it worked because I had your mummy costume for adults. It was essentially just pajamas with like mummy pattern print on them. So I was like, this is perfect. I can be you too. We'll just both have clown wigs and the mummy outfit. But yeah, her toilet paper fell off immediately.
And we tried having it taped to her. But this year she wants to be a dog. And it's like, I guarantee everybody's going to know a dog. They're going to go, oh, that looks like a dog.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. People are simple and not always the brightest. Like that, you were in Indiana trick-or-treating. Mm-hmm. It was probably some redneck that had a Coors Light, is like, hey, look at Boxhead.
No, honestly, in my memory, he had brown skin, but he could have been mixed. He could have been black. He could have been Latino. I'm not sure. He looked like, in my mind, you know who he looks like is Gus Fring from Breaking Bad.
So he was very distinguished. That makes it even worse.
What is that actor's name? Anyhow.
Yes. Giancarlo.
Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito. Yeah. So anyway, that's who it was. Anywho.
Well, it's good to know that he got what he deserved in the end anyway, with his face half blown off. So.
I don't know. Yuck. Spoiler.
Spoiler for a show that finished 7 years ago.
Look, if you're like me, you're behind on everything. I don't know if you can indulge me one more moment, but today's costumes, this is what I started to say. The funny thing about them, if you go into, let's say, a Spirit Halloween store or a Party City, is they are modeled. They're like the generic version of a pop culture item. So the way they name them and the way they're instantly recognizable of some niche pop culture thing is so funny to me.
Well, it's a lot of times they have. It's just short of getting sued by who owns the copyrights.
That's it.
So it's like Spirit Halloween, and it's like Nightmare Monster, Knife Finger Monster, and you're like
exactly.
Freddy Krueger, and like no.
Unlucky day of the week, man.
Yeah.
I remember one for Napoleon Dynamite. I don't remember what they called him, but it was obscure. It was like nerdy man who also enjoys tater tots. It was very specific, and you're like, I get this.
Yeah, this doesn't say vote for Pedro. It says consider Giancarlo. You're like, what?
Yeah. So anyway, those are fun. Those are like, I don't know, just fun to see. I would never buy them and wear them. Again, they're all way too expensive to me.
Well, that's the thing. Like, speaking of like those masks that you'd wear with the rubber band that go around your head, and the plastic smock thing, they now have some for adults. They're trying to play off of, I think, people's nostalgia. So
you're tempted, aren't you?
I was tempted. There was like a Ninja Turtle one. I was like, oh, I could be Leonardo again, 30 years later or whatever.
If you had a picture of yourself that we could access, I would do it just for the Instagram side by side, personally. Yeah. I love a side by side.
Yes.
But
and that's the thing, like what was it? It was probably like $5 or $10 maybe max.
Yeah.
Probably not more. Not even $10. Probably was like $5 or $6. to go to the drugstore and get those plastic ones when we were kids. Now, I think Spirit Halloween's like, you can get like the same thing you were a kid. It's only $30. I'm like, $30? Like I could get the retro one on eBay for less than that. Like,
yeah, it won't fit, but
it won't fit. But this one's not going to fit either, and it didn't fit when we were kids either. So none of it.
None of it fits.
It's right? It was like one of those medical gowns just made out of plastic.
Yeah, that material is awful. It's like just take a tablecloth from the dollar store and cut it out yourself.
Yeah.
So you watched a lot of Unsolved Mysteries growing up as a kid.
Well, that was spooky. Yeah.
We recently got into watching it now. You got me into watching it.
Yeah, because they've got the new one. I think they're on like season 3 of Unsolved Mysteries now. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it because I feel like I still have PTSD from childhood, kind of like you have with Boxhead.
Was it a family-friendly show? Did they want kids watching this, or did you just sneak in and see it?
So what happened was, I don't think it was family friendly, but I don't think it was something that was made. It wasn't like HBO only.
Yes, right.
But it was adult content in terms of there's murders, there's kidnappings, there's different stuff like that.
Bad acting.
Terrifying. It's terrifying. Although Robert Stack was good.
He's consummate professional.
I know. He was the host, and he made it even creepier. And that's the thing the current iteration is missing. Is that super creepy guy.
Yeah.
And when you're a kid, because Robert Stack at that age, I mean, in the early 90s or whatever, he was probably 60.
Yeah, but I don't think he was meant to be. Do you think he was meant to be creepy? He's not like Vincent Price.
No, I don't think he was meant to be Vincent Price, but he was to a kid. I think he was meant to be serious and ominous, like bring that kind of tone to this thing.
He certainly did. Do you want to do an impression of him?
I don't think I can, but like
this is obviously my register won't go low enough.
I'm going to do an impression of your impression.
I didn't do it yet.
This is Unsolved Mysteries.
Sounds like a Horatio Sands character. This is Unsolved Mysteries.
That's who I sound like. It was in the throat though, wasn't he? Like everything
he was
said.
A little more gravelly too.
Gravel.
Yes,
he was.
Gravel.
Say something like, "Hello, I'm hosting Unsolved."
Hello, I'm hosting Unsolved Mysteries.
A woman in the woods.
A woman in the woods. She went for a walk and never came back.
And you sound like a Will Forte character. We grew up on too much SNL, I guess.
I know. Well, that's the thing. Like, so how did I watch this as a kid? Because I had to have been 8 or so. And this is actually, I forgot about some of these memories. So my dad's a preacher, and there was some class at church I had to take. It was probably a Wednesday night that this show came on.
Wow, so many layers.
I know.
Dad is a preacher, going to church, taking classes in the church.
I know, and it was class probably with adults. Like, and so I'm 8 taking a class with adult. I think it was 8 or 9, and it was probably something like, so you want to be saved, and you have to learn the essentials about what it means to be saved and all of this stuff. And so I was taking that class, and then when I would come home, I had the option to watch Unsolved Mysteries or go to bed. Like that was it. Those were my 2 options.
That's the link. I thought for sure it had something to do with like scaring you straight so that you would say your prayers before bed.
I think it was something my dad liked the show, and look, he raised 3 other kids that are much older than me, nearly 2 decades older than me, and it was nice. This is me time now.
Yeah, so if you can either be a part of it or not, but this is what I'm enjoying.
And it probably came on at 8:00, and so that's why I'm like, I don't think it was not family friendly, but it certainly was not. It's like watching a Dateline episode now. And so I could watch those, and honestly, like most of the time, it did scare me for sure. I was scared every single time.
Yeah, and
it kept me up certainly a lot of nights.
No.
But the ones that scared me the most were the paranormal, supernatural things. And the one that sticks out the most is there was a house that I guess it was haunted, but it was more like the house itself was a sentient being.
Okay.
And for some reason hated the family that lived inside of it and wanted them to leave. And so it tried to burn itself down, and they were, they woke up in the middle of the night and there's smoke, and, which, even at that age in elementary school, we're probably learning about smoke detectors.
Of course, stop, drop, and roll.
And so you can be woken up in the middle of the night to a fire, and you have to. So it kept me up of like, oh, is this gonna happen to me? Is the house going to try to burn me down?
Oh no. Did you have any indications that your home was out to get you?
I don't think so.
Did the toilet snap back on you when you tried to sit down on it?
I don't remember anything about our house actually being an issue.
Right. It was just the threat of, if this could happen to them, it could happen to anybody.
It could. Well, that's the thing. There was also another show around this time that I kind of get confused with some of the storylines. Mm-hmm. So I think it was called Amazing Stories.
Oh.
I think that's what it was called.
Because I was thinking of Rescue 911. Do you know the difference between those?
Yeah. You're talking to me like I'm just was in a car accident or I have CTE. Do you know the difference between Rescue 911 and Unsolved Mysteries?
I know, but I mean, are you mixing those? Do you ever mix those in your head? Because I mix. They all have reenactments. Is the thing, right?
I do understand what you mean on that one, but no, this was because this one was more of a fantasy tale.
Yes.
So it was, I don't know why. Because it was just post-Cold War time probably. Mm-hmm. And there was a Russian guy that was turned into a vampire.
Interesting.
And so I'm like, was that Unsolved Mysteries or was that like this Amazing Stories show or a new reboot of The Twilight Zone or something like that?
I knew a Romanian kid in college named Vlad.
Okay.
He was quite pale, but he wasn't Russian.
It's him the whole time.
Well, if, excuse me for just a moment,
if you have any information on the house...
Is Robert Stack choking?
No, but how did they end the episode? What was the call to action for the haunted house?
It was always like, if anyone has information that could help bring
could any houses come forward with their information about a suspicious house, talking about how he killed his family?
Yes. I think it was kind of like put on us, if you have any information, you can help solve this mystery. You can solve this mystery.
That's right.
And I'm like, I'm 8. The pressure is now on me to find a house that's trying to burn people down, or
I wouldn't know where to
find a killer. There was a lot of serial killer stuff on there.
Oh, that's awful. This would be a great kid detective series for you to launch of this kid that appoints himself as solving the neighborhood's mysteries.
Yeah, Lil Stack.
Lil Unsolved. Because I'm going to make Lil Murder, She Wrote. You make Lil Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah. Bobby Stack.
Yes, little Bobby Stack.
That is so adorable. Anyhow, go on.
Yeah, so that's, yeah. But there's a lot of that fear around that time. And that's why even with, raising our daughter is that I'm like, I don't know if she's old enough to watch that yet. Like you were trying to have her watch Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm like, I don't know about that,
Yeah, I still think that one is pretty sweet. All things considered, it's not too gruesome, but it is very gray.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if I would even let her watch.
It's 4.5 now.
Frankenweenie came up on Disney, and she's like, I want to watch Frankenweenie. I was like, I need to talk to Mom about that. We need to probably watch it.
Yeah.
So I am becoming my dad with some of this stuff, except for Unsolved Mysteries. Everything else in our house was he's always like, I have to watch that first, or
Yeah.
That's why
that's nice.
So if PG-13 was the rating, then it was expected in the house that I'd have to be 13 before I saw that. So
and with a parental parent guiding you.
Yeah, but one of my friends was
providing guidance.
His mom, he had a single mom. I never heard anything about his dad, ever in our entire friendship. So I don't know why he was out of the picture. But she was single, and that meant that I think some of the things that in my household that wouldn't slid in her house a little bit.
Single and ready to Pringles.
Yes. Well, she would let us watch anything and let her.
That is so crazy. I definitely went to friends' houses, certainly slumber parties, where I felt like, why are we allowed to watch this?
Oh, I saw Terminator there, I think, or Terminator 2 probably is what it was. And it was, but I had a different friend who, his family, they weren't Christian and didn't have a preacher dad or anything, but it was a 2-parent household. And at his house, they had Total Recall. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to see Total Recall. And and this is probably 6th grade. Mm-hmm. And his dad was like, "Oh, I don't know if Luke's parents would appreciate that. So you can play Atari." Or they had an Atari, which was way older than anything. We were playing Genesis and Super Nintendo, and his family had an Atari.
That's
so we're
great.
playing Q*bert, and I'm like, and just looking at the VHS copy of Total Recall, just sitting over there.
We were generously given an Atari console when someone else moved on to Nintendo, and that was my first video game, was playing Pigs in Space.
Pigs in Space. And well, that's the thing, like that. I get it now why some parents would do that. So like with the single mom parent, she was going to go take us to the movies, and it was going to be a movie called Necessary Roughness.
That sounds familiar.
It was a football movie starring Sinbad. And it was PG-13. I think maybe Scott Bakula is in it as well.
Great.
And I was like, my dad's not going to let me go see this.
Because of what? Because of the PG. They're not because of the actual like nudity or swear, but just the rating itself.
And so I it's a Sinbad movie. How, obviously,
right? It's a comedy.
It can't even be that bad.
How old were you?
Maybe 11 or maybe 12. But I think I was probably 11. Right on the cusp. And so I said, "Hey, Dad, they're going to see this movie. Can I go?" And he goes, "Which movie?" I go, "Necessary Roughness." And he goes, "What's it rated?" And I go, "I think PG." And I knew it wasn't. I knew it was PG-13. He goes, "Okay, if it's PG." And I go, "Okay." And I went.
Oh, your dad's so sweet.
Well, he trusted me in a lot of things, around that time. And I was a bit of a liar at that age. He just hadn't discovered how much of a liar yet.
Okay.
And so that's how I ended up seeing that. And I tweeted that out a few years ago of like saying that I had lied to get into a Sinbad movie, and Sinbad wrote me back on Twitter publicly about it.
What did he say?
Oh, I'd have to look it up again, but he was almost shaking his head type of thing, like shaking my head. He's got lying to see it, a PG-13 movie.
What's the world coming to?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so sweet. Well, let's talk about comfort shows then. What did you watch when Unsolved Mysteries spooked you out? That's not a term. Chilled you to the bone? I can't think of expressions anymore.
None of those are. When it spooked you out, I'm like, what? It goes along with your costumes.
Shook you to the bone. Chilled you to your core? I can't think of anything.
Rattled your innards.
Yeah.
Well, I was very much into cartoons as a kid, very much into animation. So Ren and Stimpy certainly is a big influence on me in general. Three Stooges is not a cartoon, but it was something that they were cartoon-like. I enjoyed them a lot.
Both of those are too, I don't know, dramatic to me.
Dramatic?
Ren and Stimpy? Yeah. Ew, you never knew when you were going to see a booger. And
you did. You did know every episode. It was weird. Powder Toast Man was funny.
Oh, that was funny.
And so, even though that dude, I think, ended up being a creep that created it.
Oh,
but
that's something to Google later.
Yeah, I think he was one of the. He's predates getting canceled, but I think he got canceled just because he was such a.
Dang! How are you going to get canceled before cancellation exists?
I think it was something along. I don't know if it was Pee Wee Herman level, but it was.
And remember when that was scandalous? And then I hear about it today, and I'm like, why were people up in his business? What was?
Well, what's the really weird part about the whole thing is that the character Pee Wee Herman and the man of Paul Rubens somehow became one.
When I tell you how frightened I was to see his mugshot in the newspaper, Saturday morning cartoons or Sunday morning paper, I couldn't stop looking at it.
That was a solved mystery. They knew exactly what he did and where he did it. And
they got all the information.
I don't know how his hair grew out though. That was the weird thing because it was like
we didn't know how television worked. Yeah, he had facial hair and long hair, probably because he wasn't shooting, obviously.
But that takes a long time to grow your hair that long, and so it's like, were they not shooting for?
Was he shooting Buffy? No. Buffy was years later.
Yeah, I don't know.
So anyhow, he's such a chameleon because he was also the dad in Batman with the Penguin. He was the Penguin's dad.
Batman Returns, yeah.
Batman. I recognized him then because I'm like, I'm on to you now, Rubens. I'm going to look for you any different way I can.
Which is a Tim Burton movie, by the way, which Pee-wee's Big Adventure is a Tim Burton movie.
Yes.
His first movie.
Cool.
Is, I believe, his first motion picture.
Does he also do the score? There's something about Tim Burton movies having some really cool music in them.
Oh, what's his face?
Danny Elfman?
Danny Elfman at least does it in the Batman movies.
And what about Beetlejuice?
Probably Beetlejuice too. I don't know.
Anything with a big, what is that instrument? Trombone, trumpet, boom, 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 beep, 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 beep. Anyway, I don't know if we have the rights.
Don't worry, it didn't sound anything like it.
I'm dropping these powerful impressions on you, and you are just swatting them away like a cat with day-old biscuits.
You know that old saying, cat with the day-old biscuits.
Your Honor, he swatted at me like a cat with day-old biscuits. Whatever, that would definitely go viral if I was on a judge show.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you said Your Honor. So, like, are you the judge saying Your Honor to yourself, or
no? I'm the plaintiff.
You're plaintiff.
No, I'm the defendant.
What did you do then? If you're the defendant, I think you're the plaintiff if he swatted at you.
I tried to do my husband's podcast that I share with him, and he swatted at me like a cat doing some day old biscuits.
What about a day old cat swatting at some fresh biscuits?
What were we even talking about?
Comfort shows is what we're trying to talk about.
Okay, fine.
Now
your
we're
turn.
on comfort food, biscuits.
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I don't remember, but probably around this time, there was a show called, I think it was called 7 Cities of Gold.
Yes.
And it was...
Sounds familiar.
I think it was anime.
You used to sing me the theme song, didn't you?
I looked it up. I don't think I could sing it. Like, I can't even remember.
I seem to recall you going, 7 Cities of Gold.
I don't think that's what it was. Also, that's a better Robert Stack than your Robert Stack was.
That's my Luke. All right, go on.
So, I can't remember the song. But I do remember I loved it. And for some reason, I loved that show. And so, one summer, we had... one of those, it was inflatable, but it was an above ground plastic pool.
Okay.
That was maybe 3 feet tall.
Mm-hmm. That's deep.
For these type of pools, but it was just on a patio. So it seemed really big at the time, but I'm 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. And so I had gone swimming in that, and then it was time for the show. Mm-hmm. And I had taken off my swimming suit and put it in the shower area.
It's the worst part of swimming to me.
I know. And, well, then I was just naked, and the show was on, and I was jumping on the couch naked, singing the song.
That reminds me of a kid I know today. Yeah. I see where she gets it.
Yeah. And so
I never did that.
You never danced naked?
Never wanted to.
Yeah. So I was shaking my booty butt, I think is sweet, to use one of our daughter's terms. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember, but it seems like I heard the garage door open at the time I screamed and then ran into my room because I was embarrassed that I was a naked couch dancer.
Oh, no. Do I dare ask the age? How old did you say you were?
Probably 8 or 9.
That's so sweet.
That's probably what I was.
Good. Enough to know, this is...
Yeah, like I got to get out of here.
I need some decorum.
And when I say garage door, I bet it wasn't even just the garage door opening, like the for the cars. Mm-hmm. We had a door from the garage to the house. Oh. So it was probably opening up. Yeah. And I was like, I got to get out of here.
The timer on that is much shorter.
Yeah. And we had a living room that we never used. They only used for a Bible talk every week. And
the luxury.
I know. It didn't have plastic on stuff, but my mom had gotten white carpets in there for some reason.
Whoa.
And so I wasn't really allowed to play on that ever. Yes. So we had a family room is where the TV was. Mm-hmm. And I think it was at the time, these CRT televisions was, I think it was 27 inches, which was a big TV. Mm-hmm. And then we had a 13-inch, color television somewhere with dials on it. But this is the big one. And so it was the one that was hooked up to cable and would have gotten Nickelodeon where that show was. So,
very cool.
But the garage was right there. There was actually... there's a garage door, that the one that you could go to the cars and go to the house, like go back and forth. but then there was the washing machine and dryer, and then another door. So I probably heard that first door open, and I had about 6 feet before they were opening that other door.
What, some modern homes?
Son dancing naked on the couch.
That was close. Nothing they hadn't seen before, I'm sure. But I was going to say, your little washer area is what the modern day equivalent of a mud room. This is what.
Oh.
Yes. Home designers always like to include a mud room coming in from the garage.
Yeah. And there's even a bathroom and a shower. That's where I put my swimsuit. There was a shower there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's very sweet. I'm forgetting what I wanted to tell you, the last thought. If it comes back to me, I'll circle back to it. But yeah, the whole running from your parents last minute is a very relatable thing.
Yeah.
Just like the countdown begins. Oh, I know what I was going to say. When you talked about the living room no one uses, anytime I was at someone's house with a living room no one uses, I would always crane my neck. I can think of several that come to mind. You just look around like, what's in there that nobody can touch? One woman had a polished wood lobster on the mantle, I remember. I was terrified of it. It was just like decor. It wasn't on the mantle. It was on the
There's an Unsolved
table.
Mysteries about that lobster.
It is. In my mind, there is. And anyway, and the glass table versus the wooden coffee table in the family use room. Anyway, we never had one growing up, but I always loved to look through them. They're so quiet. They're like museum exhibits.
Yeah, in terms of like childhood, there was only a few times that we ever used it as a family, and Christmas Day was one where that's our Christmas tree was in that room, and that's where the presents would be. So that we all sat down, and usually since my siblings were much older, they were married, they had kids, their families would come over, and we'd be all in that space.
That's so sweet.
Together. But that's about it. And I know they watched a movie in there once, and I don't know.
Once?
Yes, because it was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but it was PG-13, so I wasn't allowed to watch it.
Oh, no.
Not even with parental guidance.
Did you sneak in and check it out?
No, I was in the family room watching something else. So they put something on for me, and maybe I had maybe my niece Sarah, who is only like 4 or 5 years younger than me. We might have been watching Nickelodeon or something like that while they were in the other room. And it's, in terms of comedy memories, it's one that really stands out because everyone in there was laughing so hard. Just I couldn't see them, but I could picture them having tears streaming down their face. It just was going on and on. And the reason I couldn't watch is the F word is used. Because Steve Martin uses it at the rental counter or whatever.
Yes.
And so it stood out in my mind like, that's what I want to be part of. I want to see that. I don't want to be...
Of course.
And that, a lot of my childhood is that, by the way.
I know. I was going to say, is this the dawn of your FOMO? Because I know that is a big part of you growing up was like, no, what is everybody else doing?
Oh, yeah. That's having a preacher dad who... I had an early bedtime, too. So, like, and it lasted during the summer even. And I remember looking out my window, peeking out the blinds. And my neighbors' grandkids were over, and they were all doing sparklers and different fireworks in their yard. And my lights are off. I was supposed to be in bed, and I'm just peeking through blinds, wishing I'm like that sad kid in a movie. Oh, I wish I was them.
That kid's supposed to be in an orphanage.
Yeah.
You were in a loving home, and you still were like, why not me?
Yeah, which I get it now as an adult parent, where it's like, it's your bedtime. It's your bedtime 7:15. That's when you're going to bed, and because I need to recharge. It's that or Unsolved Mysteries, kid.
Oh my goodness!
Now I noticed that you carved the pumpkin this year. Usually, like we've made that kind of like a family thing.
Here we go.
No, it's not. It's not I actually think it's a really beautiful pumpkin that you carved. I think it's really cool. But it is interesting, like just the types of pumpkins. It almost falls into the costume thing where you've made this elaborate design on the front, and it's really cool. It's
a pug dog.
It's a pug dog, or I thought it was bulldog face.
Bulldog. It does look like a bulldog. Yeah. It's just one of those smush nose dog faces.
It's a box head, and so
it's a dead dog announcer.
Dead dog announcer is a zombie dog. What is this thing? But it's a very different type of pumpkin than the traditional pumpkin of like what I would do is like we're carving some triangles, we're carving a big mouth.
Yes.
And our
daughter wanted that.
She wanted that.
She was like, I'm all ready to do a triangle. She drew it on the board. She's like, I'm going to do a triangle nose. But she specifically said, I want to do a dog. And then she went and made the standard jack-o'-lantern face. And I was like, okay, can we look up some dog ideas to flesh it out? And then she picked this ornate design that she could not do. I even tried to include her in the process of, okay, I'll draw the stencil and now you scrape. And she was like, no, too much work.
She just wanted to make some triangles. And you're like, well, that's not going to look like a dog. So let me go ahead and take over.
I'm so evil, but you're right. I took over, and recently with our friends, we all went out and did a campfire, and I was so afraid the kids were going to poke themselves in the eye with the skewers that I kept loading up the stick, and then they'd hold it for 2 seconds, and I'd be like, no, you don't want to hold it that way. You want to hold it this way. And one of the moms passing out, my friend who was passing out the marshmallows, was like, Abby, it's a kid activity. Let the kids do it. And I'm like, yeah. He's doing it wrong.
They're doing it. They're doing it right now. They did it and they failed, and now it's my turn.
So for our kid, I tried to include her every step of the process, but it was just like, she was like, no, you go ahead.
Yeah.
You want to rip these pumpkin guts out? Here, let me just scrape all the strings off. You don't want to do the strings. It's too much. Here, now dig your hand in. And she goes, it smells, no, it smells wet. I don't want to feel sticky. And I'm like, all right, I'll do this part. And I just gutted the whole thing.
So the 4-year-old sitting over by herself, you have the pumpkin going to town and playing Jack Skellington music in the background.
This is something I need to work on. Let the kids, I heard someone say, was it Bob Odenkirk? Maybe I don't know. Everything I see on Twitter, I act like I read it somewhere in a newspaper. But
according to this article,
I saw Bob Odenkirk quoted from a podcast on a GIF in Twitter. He said, you should let kids do dangerous things carefully. So it's not like you can't let a kid engage in something that might be above their grade level, but you should not be neurotic and hovering and interrupting them constantly. So I'm learning from that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I'm much more of that parent, letting her do things, and like it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's okay if she would quote unquote fail at it. But the one thing I guess I had to learn was when we were playing checkers, I was trying to let her have moves and stuff, but eventually I just kind of won the game, and she was very upset with
Grave mistake, my friend.
Very upset.
I always let her win.
Yes, and you let her win, and then you told me that kids are supposed to be allowed to win till they're 6 or something like that.
I read that a long time ago. I don't know if it's true.
In an article
before Twitter was invented.
And so, but I didn't know that, so I was like, oh, okay, well, I can let her win. So I played her again, and I just let her win, and she was much happier with that. I
let this little child triple jump me into a king. She'd be like, click, click, click. And I'd just look at it like, how did you do that? And the look of pride on her face. That's what I like to play checkers for. Yeah,
which is fine. I don't even want to play checkers in the first place. So it's fine if she wants to win. So
yeah, if only I could do that when it comes to cooking or, I don't know, kid activities. Maybe it's the fact that it's artistic. I think I just want to... No, there's nothing artistic about toasting marshmallows. I just need to back off.
There's a term of like living vicariously through the children. You're wanting them to live vicariously through you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. If you had a great time, let us know on social. Follow Kid is in School on Twitter and The Kid is in School on Instagram. Subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. Be sure to throw us one of those 5-star ratings and share with your friends. Oh, and do it quickly before the kid gets home.